Hiya, back again, back. I'm back in my sweatshirt. I just wanted to do a quick video on a reminder of how to do short answer questions, because we're going to set you an assignment, shortly to practice 10 markers in particular, but also for education you need to do a 4 and a 6 marker as well. So firstly, a quick note about timing. So remember that every 10 marks is 15 minutes of time in the exam. So no surprises, for a 10 marker, you're going to spend 15 minutes on it. And for a 4 and a 6 marker, that's going to add up to 15 minutes as well, 10 marks, okay? Equally, 20 mark essays, half an hour, 30 mark essays, 45 minutes. So just stick with that. 10 marks equals 15 minutes. So I know we've practiced these before, but I just wanted to try and again. Oh, look how odd at every angle on film. So the 4 and the 6 markers, you want to think of them in twos, essentially. And for every 2 marks, they're going to say, briefly explain and describe 2 or 3 things for either 4 or 6 marks. So for each 2 mark, you want to make the point, obviously in a full sentence, answer the question, and then for the other mark, briefly explain it. If you've got a name, if you've got a study, if you've got a fact, great. You possibly could get away without them for 4 and 6 marks, but you want to impress the examiner and shove them in if you've got them. So 1 mark for saying it, another mark for explaining it. So these are going to be very short answers. The 10 markers, as we know, are kind of a bit of a thorn in my side. I think they're quite tricky, and I know we've practiced them a bit. Now, the first thing to say is there's 2 different types of 10 marker. So for education and crime, you're going to get only 10 markers with a item. And remember, for family and for religion, you'll get 1 10 marker with an item and 1 10 marker without. So with an item, we know that if you have an item, the skill they're partially looking for is that you can pull out 2 hooks from the item. 2 things from the item. So you can't just dream up any answer. They've specifically put the answers in the item. There may be 2 or 3 things you can pick. You only need 2. So that's the first really important thing to say. With an item, you must take your answers out of the item, or it is literally game over. You could get no marks horribly easily. So what else for a 10 marker with an item? Now remember, I said it's easiest to think of it as 2 5 markers. So completely separate points, completely separate paragraphs. And I wish I'd said that with the 4 and the 6 markers as well, that leave gaps between each, do them as separate paragraphs. It's way easier for the examiner to mark, and God knows we want to make it as easy as possible so they feel friendly towards you. So 10 markers with an item. 2 things, 2 5 mark paragraphs. So for each 5, and I know you've got this written down, but I'm just going to run through it again. There's no exact way to do this, but I think having a bit of formula is quite helpful. So for the first mark, it's showing that you've pulled the correct point out of the item, showing that. There's a mark straight away, showing that you've answered the question, pulling it out of the item. Now, the mark that's often a bit forgotten is this one. The second mark, you need to explain why that answers the question. Really go for it. You know, that might be a good 2 or 3 sentences. Why does that thing you've just said answer the question? So really explain that in some detail. So that's for your second mark. Marks 3 and 4 are for backing that up with lots of different evidence. Now, this does come from your knowledge from the course. So you want at least 2 or 3 bits of evidence that answer the question and back up your point. They might be studies with names. They might be, so in religion, it might be talking about specific religion itself. In education, it could be a policy that's come in, or family. It could be an event that's happened that is relevant. It could be statistics, but you need to get at least 2 or 3 bits of evidence in there. These 5 markers, 10 markers, 2 5s, are longer than you think. Remember, 5 marks really should be about 3/4 of a side. So it will look like at least a side and a half, or you probably haven't written enough. It's half a 20-mark essay. They want some detail. And that's why I think people often fall down. Mark 5 is evaluating your evidence. On the other hand, in contrast to this, however, good old however, use it as much as you like. And then you need to contradict your evidence. Now, again, if you can do this with more facts, figures and studies, all the better. Okay, so let me recap on that. Mark 1 is taking the correct point out of the item. Mark 2 is bigger than you think. It's explaining why that answers the question. Marks 3 and 4 think of as your evidence. You need some studies, you need some facts. You know, go for it there. You need more than you'd think, at least 2 or 3 bits explained in some detail. And then Mark 5 is evaluating. Okay, do that twice, you're on to a winner. So that's the 10 marker with an item, and that appears in family, religion, education and crime. So you want to get good at that. Then there is the alternative 10 marker without an item. Now, strangely, I think in theory this is meant to be easier, but I kind of find it quite hard to pad out enough marks for this one. So on religion and family, there's going to be a 10, and methods, there is going to be a 10 marker without an item. Okay, I'm going to check that methods thing as I say it. I'm pretty sure I'm right, but I'll double check. They've changed it all. So, methods, family, religion, you're going to need this technique. Okay, so, again, 2 5s. Here you can use any information you've got. There's no item to take it from. They just want you to answer the question. Please do it in 2 separate paragraphs. God, it's frustrating if you don't, and makes it so hard to award the marks. So here, mark 1 out of the 5 is making the point again. Marks 2 and 3, 2, however you want to see it, is explaining why that answers the question. Very similar. Go for it there. Why on earth does that answer the question? If you just state a policy, that doesn't tell you why the policy answers the question. Really, really answer it. Okay. Again, marks 3 and 4, lots of evidence here. Really go for it on the evidence with these. Draw it from wherever. Facts, figures, studies, events, policies, etc. As much evidence as you can to back up your answer. And again, apply it all to the question. Why is that evidence answering the question? And then mark 5 here is a bit of a magical mystery tour. I know we've discussed this a lot in class. It says don't evaluate. There are no marks for evaluation, so don't evaluate. That's as simple as that. Don't evaluate. So don't use the term however. But they do want you to analyse your evidence. Now, a good way to open, therefore, your last sentence might be an analysis of this information is. Good, safe way to flag it up. And that might be to what extent that evidence is true, whether that evidence is slightly out of date and has become less relevant in the present time, etc., etc. Don't call it evaluation, but it is really hard to separate analysis and evaluation. For the methods question, a really good way to do that seems to be to talk about, so in this 5th mark for the methods 10 marker, talk about whether it's favoured by interpretivists or positivists and explain why. That seems to be something they're really after. But good phrases for analysis. An analysis of this evidence is the extent to which this is useful or true is, I'll think of some others and come back to you. I know I've written down loads with you and they're leaving my mind at the moment. So that's just a quick recap on how to do the short answer questions. And as I say, we are going to give you an assessment, everyone, just practicing that because we feel like we've set a lot of essays, but maybe not enough of the short answers. So we're all over that because in every paper, lots of marks are for 10 markers. So yes, I'll come back to you on that. Take care, everyone. Bye-bye.